The NBA has made questionable decisions before, but leaving the Boston Celtics out of Rivals Week is not just questionable, it is a public embarrassment that undermines the very idea of what makes basketball compelling. Rivalry is the heartbeat of sports. It is the invisible thread that pulls fans into games they would otherwise ignore, and it is the flame that ignites traditions passed from one generation to another. To exclude the Celtics from an event designed to showcase the most heated matchups is like publishing a history book that forgets to mention the Roman Empire. You cannot tell the story of NBA rivalries without Boston, and yet that is exactly what the league has chosen to do. Last week, the NBA released the full schedule for the 2025 to 2026 season. On the surface, it looks like routine business, just a list of 82 games, dates, and arenas. Yet every schedule is more than just a formality, is a map of how narratives will unfold. Some stretches of games turn into storylines of redemption, others into battles of endurance, and certain dates become milestones that define entire seasons. Which is why fans and analysts circle opening night, Christmas Day, and Martin Luther King Jr. Day as the moments when the NBA chooses to shine its brightest lights. And for the first time in years, Boston has been removed from the center of that spotlight. The explanation the league wants you to believe is simple. Jason Tatum's Achilles injury has altered the perception of Boston's power. Combine that with the summer roster shuffle that sent shockwaves through the front office, and to outsiders the Celtics may appear like a team in transition. That might be the narrative on paper, but anyone who has ever followed this franchise knows that perception rarely matches reality. The Celtics have reinvented themselves before, and every time doubt was thrown at them, they emerged more dangerous. Which makes the NBA's decision to exclude them not just short-sighted but fundamentally blind to the storylines fans crave. Because here is the truth the league refuses to acknowledge. Rivalries are not built on standings, they are not built on depth charts, they are not built on August speculation about who might be competitive in April. They are built on decades of tension, on arenas filled with hostile chants, on cities that have learned to despise each other through countless playoff wars. They are built when history refuses to let two teams ignore each other. And Boston has more of those connections than any franchise in the league. Ask any fan outside of New England, and you will hear the same confession whispered with gritted teeth. They hate the Celtics. They hate the banners, they hate the parquet floor, they hate the shamrock stitched across the chest, they hate the very idea that one team has defined success more than any other in basketball history. 17 championships, countless Hall of Famers, iconic moments that live forever in highlight reels. This is not just a team, it is a monument. And monuments collect enemies. New York, Philadelphia, Miami, Los Angeles, all cities where Celtics victories have left scars that still burn. That is what a true rivalry looks like, and yet the league has the audacity to replace it with manufactured storylines between franchises whose fans barely know how to spell each other's names. Do you really think anyone in Charlotte loses sleep over Cleveland? Do you really believe Thunder fans wake up plotting revenge against Milwaukee? Do you think Houston and San Antonio meeting in January will have the same electricity as Boston and Los Angeles colliding in any arena on any day? The answer is obvious. Rivalries cannot be invented. They can only be earned through blood, sweat, and heartbreak. The Celtics have given this league more of that than almost any other franchise, yet they are being pushed aside for rivalries that exist only in the imagination of league executives. This is not just a scheduling mistake. It is a lost opportunity. Rivalries are not just entertainment, they are the league's currency. They drive ratings, they fuel debates, they create memories that outlive seasons. By keeping Boston out, the NBA has denied itself the chance to recreate the intensity of games like the unforgettable Celtics versus Lakers clash in March last season, a game so explosive that fans were in their seats long before tip-off, a game where every possession felt like a fight for history. That is the essence of Rivals Week, and that is what the league has decided to abandon. And here is where the curiosity rises. If the Celtics are truly being underestimated by the league, if they are being cast aside as irrelevant, what happens when they prove the opposite? Imagine Tatum returning sooner than expected. Imagine the roster finding its chemistry at the exact right time. Imagine the Celtics walking into arenas that thought they were safe and silencing crowds that had forgotten what Boston dominance feels like. The league may think it can erase them from a marketing campaign, but it cannot erase them from destiny. Because here is the hidden reality. The NBA thrives on tension, and nothing builds tension like underestimation. By excluding Boston, the league has handed them the perfect storyline. Disrespected, overlooked, erased from a calendar of rivalries, the Celtics now have the chance to turn every regular season game into a personal vendetta. Every matchup against Philadelphia, every showdown against New York, every battle with Miami becomes a chance to remind the league what it tried to ignore. That is how legends are written, not in the schedules the league approves, but in the games that force the league to change its narrative. Rivals Week without Boston is not just incomplete, it is meaningless. You can line up all the clever matchups, all the trendy teams, all the forced connections, but without the Celtics, the event feels hollow. Rivalries are supposed to make your heart race before the ball is even tipped. They are supposed to carry the weight of decades. They are supposed to feel inevitable. And nothing in basketball has ever felt more inevitable than the Boston Celtics colliding with their enemies. The NBA may have embarrassed itself with this decision, but Boston has been here before. They know what it feels like to be doubted. They know what it feels like to be left out of the spotlight. And they know what it feels like to take that disrespect and turn it into fuel. Rivals Week will come and go, and will be forgotten, but the rivalries that involve the Celtics will never fade. They live in the veins of the sport, they live in the chants of fans, they live in the memories of every player who has ever walked into the Garden and felt its weight. The NBA cannot erase that no matter how hard it tries. Celtics are quietly reshaping their roster in ways that may seem minor at first glance, but could carry ripple effects far beyond what anyone anticipates in August. It is easy to dismiss these moves as small adjustments, the kind of transactions that rarely make headlines, yet when examined closely they suggest a front office with a clear long-term vision. The decision to waive forward Miles Norris, a player who had been on the margins, was not simply about opening a roster spot, it was about recalibrating the balance of youth, experience, and financial flexibility. The signing of rookie center Amari Williams to a two-way deal may appear ordinary, but in truth it represents a calculated bet on untapped defensive upside at a position where Boston knows health and depth can decide entire playoff runs. The narrative of this offseason changed when the Celtics sent Georges Niang and 2 second-round picks to Utah in exchange for young forward R.J. Luis Jr. The surface reading is that Boston traded a reliable veteran shooter for a developmental piece, but the deeper story is how this move aligns with the organization's effort to lengthen its competitive window. Luis Jr. is raw, yet his profile suggests a player who can grow within Boston's culture rather than being a stopgap. Soon after, the front office secured Chris Boucher on a 1-year contract, a move that injects championship pedigree and versatile size into a frontcourt that will be asked to carry heavier responsibility while Jason Tatum recovers from his Achilles injury. If you look closely at the guard rotation, an intriguing tension emerges. Derek White remains the steady presence, but the true battle is between Peyton Pritchard and Anthony Simons. One has already captured the city with relentless energy and a 6th Man of the Year campaign. The other arrives with a reputation as a polished starter capable of explosive scoring nights. The question of who wins the starting spot may not be answered in training camp alone, because Boston could be quietly exploring how the presence of Simons reshapes spacing, tempo, and long-term payroll dynamics. What makes this fascinating is that the Celtics are not making these choices under championship-level expectations. With Tatum sidelined for months, the pressure to win immediately has eased, giving the organization room to experiment with rotations that might have been too risky under the glare of title contention. On the wings, behind Jaylen Brown and Sam Hauser, opportunity is waiting to be seized. Baylor Shireman Jordan Walsh, Josh Minott, and Hugo Gonzalez each stand at a career crossroads, none of them yet secure, all of them desperate to carve out a role. It is rare for a contender to have so many open questions on the second unit wings, and that is exactly why this season could be a laboratory. The Celtics have engineered an environment where internal competition will be fierce, and the player who emerges from this battle could become a surprising cornerstone in the years to come. The frontcourt tells a story of resilience and strategy. Boucher, who's already lifted 2 NBA trophies, brings not just skill but the perspective of someone who knows the grind of a championship run. Neemias Quetta has steadily developed into a rotation piece, while Luka Garza remains an X-factor with an offensive skill set that could carve out unexpected minutes. Xavier Tillman is recovering from knee issues, and Boston will monitor him closely because his versatility could prove essential if injuries strike again. None of these names may project as stars, yet the combination of them creates the depth that can sustain a roster through the inevitable turbulence of an 82-game season. Perhaps the most intriguing wrinkle lies in the 3 two-way contracts. Unlike recent years, when familiar developmental names returned, Boston has chosen 3 older rookies, each already 23 years old. Max Shulga, R.J. Luis Jr., and Amari Williams may not have the brand name appeal of lottery picks, but the Celtics are betting that their maturity allows for quicker translation into meaningful minutes. It is a subtle yet powerful shift, signaling that Boston values readiness over raw potential at the edges of the roster. There's also the matter of finances. By moving on from certain contracts and acquiring players on shorter or cheaper deals, the Celtics have significantly lowered their payroll exposure. This is not about saving ownership money, it is about maintaining flexibility in a league where a single move can reset the balance of power. The rumor mill continues to swirl around Simons, suggesting Boston could still be active before opening night. Whether he becomes a permanent piece or a trade asset, his presence alone keeps multiple paths open. The Celtics are not loudly chasing headlines this summer, but beneath the surface, they are constructing a foundation that could outlast the noise. With lowered external expectations, the season ahead becomes less about immediate trophies and more about uncovering which of these new pieces can be trusted when the lights shine brightest again. What appears to be a step back could in fact be the beginning of a carefully orchestrated leap forward. Boston Celtics received a dose of reality when it became clear that Jason Tatum might not step on an NBA court during the entire upcoming season. The All-NBA forward, the face of the franchise, suffered a torn Achilles tendon against the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and although such an injury usually comes with a grim timetable, the whispers surrounding his recovery are creating a storm of speculation that few could have predicted. Fans, analysts, and rival executives are now asking the same question with increasing urgency, not about if he will come back, but about when and, more importantly, in what condition. What makes the situation even more fascinating is that Tatum has already been spotted moving without a protective boot, something that has stunned even seasoned scouts who have seen many careers slowed down by the same type of injury. One of them, who watched Tatum up close at Chris Paul's elite camp in Las Vegas, admitted he was shocked by how fluid his movements looked. He even confessed that he had seen athletes months behind where Tatum seemed to be now, which naturally raises an unavoidable thought. Could he actually beat the expected timeline and return far earlier than anyone dares to say publicly? That possibility alone transforms the outlook for Boston, because while the medical staff will insist on patience, the mere sight of Tatum standing, walking, and training already plants a seed of hope that grows bigger by the day. Former NBA champion Brian Scalabrine, however, reminded everyone why caution is still the wisest path. In his words, the gap between a preseason game and a playoff battle is enormous, and throwing Tatum back in the middle of a high-intensity stretch when the team is fighting to avoid the play-in tournament could put not just his Achilles, but his entire body at risk. There is truth in that logic, yet history has shown that the greatest players rarely follow conventional timelines. Kevin Durant needed over a year to return from the same injury, but when he did, he regained his level. Kobe Bryant tried to rush and struggled. Each story is different, and that is what makes the Celtics' current scenario so intriguing. Which direction will Tatum's path take? Meanwhile, Tatum himself is sending signals that ignite curiosity. On social media, he shared glimpses of his daily grind, 6 days a week in the gym with his trainer Nick Sang. He called it his rehabilitation station, showing not only sweat, but determination. For a player of his caliber, effort has never been in question, but the consistency and intensity of this routine suggest he is not preparing for a slow return. He is preparing as if he expects to dominate the moment he gets the green light. The question is whether the Celtics will allow him to test that willpower this season, or whether they will lock the door until the fall of 2026. Financially and strategically, patience makes sense. The franchise has invested heavily in building a roster around Tatum and Jaylen Brown, committing hundreds of millions of dollars through long-term contracts that extend deep into the decade. Preserving Tatum's health is not just a matter of compassion or medical caution. It is a matter of protecting the foundation of a championship window that still has years ahead. Losing him for an extra few months could save his prime for multiple seasons, and that calculation is one the front office cannot ignore. Yet the temptation is real, because the Eastern Conference is unpredictable, and a late-season return from Tatum could be the wild card that changes the balance of power. And here lies the true suspense. Boston is not a team built to tank, not with the pride of 17 championships and a fan base that demands competitiveness every single year. If the Celtics remain afloat by the trade deadline, hovering around contention, can the organization truly resist the chance of unleashing Tatum earlier than planned? Even if medical logic says wait, competitive instinct may say try. What if his presence alone, even at 80%, tilts a playoff series? What if this gamble, instead of ruining the future, sparks another banner? These are the kinds of questions that keep executives awake at night and fans glued to every update about his rehab. The mystery only deepens because those who have seen Tatum privately insist he looks better than expected. He is not jogging yet, but he is mobile, strong, balanced. This is not the profile of a player limping toward a comeback. It is the profile of a star defying normal progression. The image of him walking freely in Las Vegas without a boot was not supposed to happen this soon, yet it did, and it instantly reshaped the timeline in the minds of those who witnessed it. Even if the official word remains conservative, the silent optimism inside the locker room cannot be hidden forever. The Celtics therefore stand at a crossroads of patience and possibility. They know the safest path is to plan for a full return in the season of 2026-27, giving Tatum months to rebuild strength and rhythm. But they also know that sports are not only about safety, they are about seizing moments. And when you have a 27-year-old superstar, already an All-NBA selection, already the centerpiece of your franchise, moments cannot be wasted. The real story is not whether Tatum will play this season. It is whether the Celtics can resist the magnetic pull of hope once they see him on the floor in practice, draining shots and moving with the same grace that made him the face of Boston basketball. What no one can deny is that this uncertainty has already energized the fan base. Every report, every leaked video, every whispered update turns into a headline. It is not dread that fills the garden, it is anticipation. The question is not if Tatum's return will come, but how dramatic and how triumphant it will be. And that very uncertainty, that gap between silence and revelation, is what keeps the Celtics at the center of the NBA's most compelling storyline heading into the future.